The Concrete Connection project acknowledges that the land this podcast was recorded and filmed on is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. Well, g'day and welcome to the Concrete Connection project podcast, where I'm out on the streets of the Adelaide CBD raising money and awareness for mental health and mental health organisations that are helping people that are struggling. And I am down on Plane Tree Drive today. You might be able to hear the chimps going crazy in the background. We're right near the Adelaide Zoo. But this is episode number 34, and I'm really happy to say that I'm joined today by Emily Davis. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Benno.
Well, welcome back to Adelaide.
Thank you.
Now, you were in town for probably a few reasons, but one of them was that we just performed a show at the Wheatsheaf Hotel as the Hushers.
We did, after 10 long years on hiatus.
Well, 10 years for you, 13 for me, I think, even longer.
Yeah.
And how did you find the gig?
It was, you guys kind of warned me and said, don't stress, it's like riding a bike, all the songs are in there. They're still, and it was just spectacular, just the muscle memory. But also I was kind of commenting, we're a lot older and wiser and slightly greyer now. But we've had 10 years of playing in between this, and we've just gotten sharper, I think, and more settled in ourselves. So it was, even though it was like riding a bike and it was very, nostalgic and reminiscent of a time gone past, it felt very new and fresh to me to be able to do these songs again and breathe new life into them. So it was great.
Yeah,
Loved
it was like riding a bike, a bit like an old rusty bike. It was didn't know when the wheels were going to quite fall off, but they stayed together.
Well, there's always an element of terror in a Hushers gig, just because we do, we play the blues. There's a lot of improv that happens. You have to be really tuned into each other because at any given moment, Cal could throw you a solo, Ben could throw you a solo, a string could break, we might decide we're really feeling something and we want to push it for a few more choruses or get the audience singing along. So, yeah, it is, it's all about letting go in the moment and just rolling with it. It makes for a better show, I think.
Yeah, I said in the group message, it made me feel young and nervous again, and I said it made me feel inadequate, but in a really good way for some reason. That just scraped through for some reason. But it was
You did great.
Awesome.
You did great.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Yeah. So you haven't been in Adelaide for a long time. And when did you leave Adelaide?
So I left 2019 to move to Melbourne with my partner, and he got an artist residency at this beautiful kind of very sort of hippie artist commune out in Eltham that's very has been built in the 20s by this group of painters. They sort of hand built this medieval style village. So we got the chance to move to Melbourne, and we thought that would be a great way to sort of land. And this was in 2019, just before COVID. So we went there and lived in this gorgeous place, and then COVID hit, so we kind of got stuck there. And our original plan of going there and doing lots of music was sort of foiled. We couldn't do anything really. We were so locked down. So then we decided to fast forward our tree change, and we moved to Daylesford, which is like a beautiful little country town about an hour and a half out of Melbourne.
The day spa capital of the world. Indeed. Or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, beautiful town. So, talk to me about Daylesford. You were telling us, when we were catching up before the gig, about the interesting things that are happening in the town. So what have you been doing there?
I know a lot of people probably know, and I hate to mention this on the podcast, but the Block has just been shooting there, and a lot of people are like, oh, okay, that's where it is. But it's this kind of gorgeous little mining town that was sort of set up in the gold rush, and there's been different waves of migration in and out of the town. It's quite transient. There's lots of travellers and backpackers that come through, lots of potato farmers. It's also like the regional gay capital of Australia. We have a big Pride festival there every year in March, and the whole town gets involved. So it's got a lot of contradictions there, but it sort of works. There's also a huge artist community, lots of visual artists, ceramicists, sculptors and painters, and musicians who kind of hide out there and remain fairly anonymous. So there's a lot going on there under the surface took me a while to get in there, but I started pulling beers at the local pub, and there's no better way to to kind of get into the community in that way. So I feel a bit more connected than I did when I first moved there.
And there was also a little stint as an ice creamery.
Is it hot chocolatier and ice cream vendor?
I was trying to think of the right way. The chocolatier and ice
creamerer.
Yeah.
Yes, short-lived. The carpal tunnel did me in on that. But that was a really interesting thing as well. We used to have this little gorgeous shop that was built in 1860s or something, and it was virtually untouched. So sometimes you were scared you might fall through the floor, but it was just a beautiful, historic little place to rock up to work every day. And it gets very cold in Daylesford. It's definitely not like Adelaide, that's for sure. I've had to invest in lots of thermal undergarments just to survive the sort of relentless winter of Daylesford. But yeah, hot chocolate was a good way to start.
So I'm not sure if you remember this, but I only remembered this today, that I was introduced to you when I played when the Timbers were playing and just starting up, through a common friend of Simon who plays in the Timbers, and that was Yasmin, your friend. And she introduced us to you, saying, well, yeah, one of my good friends, she's just played WOMAD, and and she said that you guys could jump up and do a support slot. And I think we actually supported you at the Hotel Metro when we were just getting started.
Yeah, I remember that gig.
And then, and for us, like, that was like a real made-it moment. It's like, oh my gosh, we're playing with this woman that's just played WOMAD. This is it, guys. This is... So, and from there... you and, is it Mickey Ross?
Mickey Ross.
Recorded our very first EP at your place.
We did. That's right. Well, we were all living in Prospect as well, remember? We were sort of a stone's throw from each other's place. And I think Yasmin actually lived between our two houses. So I think she saw it was silly that we shouldn't know each other. Yeah. I do remember a few rooftop parties at Timbers HQ, actually, that were very fun. But yeah, we did. It was kind of in that fledgling sort of time. You guys were just starting. You were great songwriters. You had such a great energy on stage as well. I loved your gigs. People couldn't but help but move to your music. It was great. So high energy, and musically, we were just talking about this before. Not like musically interesting. You were in that folk space, but you were sort of pushing the boundaries a little bit. You had brass in there. You guys were doing some really cool stuff back then. It was great.
Yeah. So I guess, for us, we always looked up to you as a bit like Adelaide musical royalty. And then it was just, it's really nice to be able to now, look back and say, oh, well, we actually were in a band together as well, the Hushers, and we performed again on the weekend. Yeah. And I guess, well, I am getting somewhere with this, but and then we're just having a break in our set, and I could see a little bit of a chink in the Queen's armour, if this is going to make sense, because I'm someone that suffers with, I guess, a bit of like self-worth and self-doubt and things like that. And we were just having a break in between sets, and you texted your sister, oh, is this going okay? Is this all right? And you said she was the bit of the litmus test to see how the gigs are going. So it was like, oh, well, is that worry, and is that, I guess, a little bit of that imposter syndrome, is that something that you've dealt with, like, as an artist?
Look, I've had it all my life. We can talk about it a bit more, but I think every musician that I've ever met, I mean, I live with one, my partner is a musician as well. He's, very established and well-known and very competent and beautiful player. And he still struggles with that, even though he's made a whole career out of just doing that. So I think, I definitely still struggle with it. And it's that need for external validation that we're always seeking, right? Like, am I doing it right? Am I, rather than just trusting your gut.
Am I doing a good job? Please, someone tell me, please.
Like, the audience isn't enough. Like, but it is enough. But there's so much self-doubt tied up in being a musician. Well, being an artist, I guess, of any kind, so much of what you do is intuitive. And then when you get to the point where you're sharing it with other people, it becomes responsive to their reaction. So it's this strange paradigm you live in where you're kind of always between two worlds, things that feel just perfect to you in your bedroom when you're writing a song or whatever, and then end up getting shared with others. You can't help but feel like there's an element of judgment with that. which is where the imposter syndrome comes from, I suppose. And I always felt like a bit of a... Like I'd studied music, did classical guitar when I was a kid. I did music lessons all through high school. I never did it in school, like as a school subject, but I was always doing private guitar lessons. And then I kind of went on to law school, which was just a complete, music was just a hobby for me. So when I decided I was dropping law school, which I think was a very wise decision. Don't know if you've seen The Castle or Dennis Denuto, but I feel like I would have been it's the vibe, it's the Constitution kind of lawyer.
Just come on, guys.
Yeah, exactly. So even not having the training or the formal kind of music education, I always felt a little bit like I didn't know what I was doing, or that it was never really quite good enough. And I maybe in my 20s, maybe after my second album, I sort of realised like it doesn't matter. Like you're just telling stories. Like there's plenty of people who have never gone to music school who are musicians. Like you just need to get over yourself a little bit and just rely on your strengths. People aren't here to judge you. They're actually here to listen to you, and it's a really great. It's wonderful when you can overcome that, but it still creeps in. You see.
You did say the audience is enough, and it should be enough, even if it's 5 people, even if it's 100 people, even if it's more. But like, for some reason, it's never quite enough. You still need. I'm still a bit the same. If I got a friend in the crowd, was that all right?
Yeah.
And nobody noticed the mistakes and things like that, and. And they're there for the mistakes, they're warts and all sometimes as well. But
Exactly.
It's an interesting thing that always I found has crept in a lot. Yeah, and I just thought I'd ask you that because, I think you are revered around Adelaide and probably in all the other places you've played and probably in Daylesford as well as being an exceptional musician. But I just saw that little glimpse and I'm like, oh, maybe she is a human.
It's all very flattering, Ben. I'm really enjoying this. Thank you for... But yeah, it is also, I don't think people understand when you perform, regularly, there's definitely a front you have to put on. And you kind of have to convince yourself that you know what you're doing when you're about to step up on stage. Like there's a bit of self-talk that you have in the pre-gig. What if it all goes horribly wrong? What if, you start catastrophizing? But then once you're up there, you do need there is that self-belief. It's like, well, I'm here now. I have to do this. I can do it. But it always amazes me how that self-doubt is, I think I've just accepted it now. It's just part of the process. And it's part of being able to listen. Like sometimes you do have a great show or you think you've done a crap show, but actually it's fine. And you just need to calibrate that to know what good feels like. And to take feedback, I think, is really useful. You're kind of getting real-time feedback from the audience, but sometimes... I try new songs. They have to be tried live sometimes before you record them. And you really are gauging people's response. Like you can see where the flabby bits are in a song that you maybe go on a bit too long, or you get a sense where a bridge might need a bit of lifting. And I don't know, so that you want to keep the door open for that. You just don't want to let the bad stuff in with it as well, Yeah,
there's definitely something to be said about how good things can go at home in your bedroom. And then once they go on stage, then you can quickly, it is that litmus test of, all right, this... did not work. Or this is not working. So next, and that gets cut or whatever.
Yeah.
And so talking about storytelling, you are now trying your hand at storytelling in a different way. And you've been making some films.
I have been making films. This was a beautiful gift given to me during COVID when all the gigs that I had planned were just wiped. My job was wiped. I was on like JobKeeper or something, sitting at home, just writing it out. And I had a really beautiful friend who was trying to get into film producing. And we'd always spoken about these stories. She's Spanish. I'm come from like a Lebanese Australian family, and we always had these things in common with our families. Maybe it's the Catholic thing, I don't know, but just these hilarious kind of dinner table conversations that would go on at Sunday lunch, And we started writing this TV series that we never thought would get anywhere. We just were doing it for the sport of it, really, I guess. We were sort of bored during COVID, and then we sort of looked at what we had, and it was quite substantial. And we thought it was funny, and we showed it to a few industry people, and next minute we were applying for a grant to make a pilot for this series, and it sort of turned into a short film, and it got picked up for quite a few festivals, not just in Australia, but internationally, and and just the process of telling those stories was so magical, and it reminded me so much of songwriting. But there was a whole new dimension in filmmaking now, that visual aspect, creating the drama in a cinematic way, or the comedy in a cinematic way, was just really fascinating, and I got completely addicted to that mode. And of course, unlike music, you need a cast of thousands to make a film. The four of us got up and did a show, on the weekend, but when you're trying to produce a film, you need a gaffer, a DOP, a makeup person. There's so many people involved. The teamwork is incredible. It's kind of like a bit more orchestral in its setup. But it's the same kind of energy. You're telling a story, everyone knows their job or their part, and you all have to find this magic moment where everyone's together and switched on to capture, the essence of the story you're trying to tell. So it's very, very similar to songwriting in a lot of ways, but also completely and utterly different in all the best ways.
I remember hearing that, I think the song by Bruce Springsteen, Highway Patrolman, was one of the first ever songs that was actually licensed to be turned into a film, but I think by Sean Penn.
Oh, yeah.
And I think some similar things have happened with Paul Kelly. Again,
That's right.
They're really good at writing a movie condensed to 3 minutes. Like, I imagine the writing of a film, extending that out, or even a pilot of a 20-minute TV show or anything like that, is quite extensive in terms of actually writing it. And then we were talking when we were rehearsing about, I can't remember what you called it, but it was something about, only keeping 10% of that first draft.
Kill your darlings. Yeah. Which, songwriters do this all the time, but I've never done this so brutally with songwriting. It's always so intuitive, and you kind of accept, I've written this is exactly how I want to. I don't know, I've never struggled with, once you get a song happening, having to cull and redraft it many times. I kind of feel like it presents itself more easily. But in screenwriting, if you're not killing 90% of your draft before you do the next draft, you're kind of not working hard enough.
Wow.
Which is really hard, And that's where the term "kill your darlings" comes from. It's
I think there was a band called that floating around at some stage.
I think there was, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to be brutal. It's like amputating parts of yourself and your story. But when you do, it really does open up entire universes that you hadn't considered. So I've seen the value of it. And then you look back at draft one and think, oh my God, it's almost a completely different story, So that process is really beautiful and taxing.
I know it's hard to do, particularly working collaboratively, not necessarily just with music, but in my experience, it's been music, getting really attached to parts, maybe because they are yours or the words you've written, and it's hard to then break that barrier of being like, oh, well, maybe let's scrap that part, or it's quite a tricky thing to do, and I can imagine it'd be even trickier when you when you're doing it for thousands and thousands of words, let alone 3 verses.
Exactly, and a very common part of screenwriting is it's not done in isolation. Like, you will show people your drafts and get feedback on them, and Natalia's a fantastic writing partner. She's very direct and honest and generous in her feedback. And I remember we took our latest film to someone who just said, I don't like it. You've just remade 9 to 5, starring Dolly Parton. It's 2023, girls. What are you doing? You've got more in you. And we were like, ugh, brutal. But she was right. She gave us such great, brutal feedback. We were like, come on, we've got to burrow in here. We've got to really push ourselves and stop trying to control the outcome. Let's just play. Let's do free play with this and see, as wild as we can go, how we can tell this story. And that's the other thing. It's like having no filter on yourself. And all that imposter syndrome stuff is it dampens creativity so much if you let it.
Yeah.
It can really do you in. So I think it's much more consultative than, say, songwriting, which I feel like is a much more personal way to tell stories. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, interesting. So are you allowed to let any info about that out now, the title or anywhere where it's being shown?
Yes, it's called The Job. It's not been released yet. We're just shopping it around to festivals at the moment. But we're hoping to do a screening in Adelaide next year sometime soon. Yeah, so we'll do that. Stay tuned for more details on that one.
Yeah. It's always things that have been floating around my head. Lots of stories and scripts, but just not knowing where to get off the ground. So that's cool to know.
Yeah, you can do it.
So the podcast and the journey that we're on, is about mental health, and then I ask this to all the guests that are on the podcast. So what do the words mental health mean to you?
Yeah. How long do we have to talk about
Well, got as long as my iPhone 11 can handle the
Look, mental health for me has been an elusive thing at certain points in my life, and I think I'm getting a bit more clear on what it means just for me. And I kind of was thinking about this when I was on my way here today. I think mental health is knowing that life is non-linear and there are going to be big ups and big downs, but knowing that you've got what you need inside of you to sort of navigate that and bear whatever's thrown your way. And I think for a long time I did not have a good sense of that. I was quite, avoidant and anxious as a result, just about dealing with things that were coming up in life, tragedies. Everyone goes through these things. It's part of the human experience. But I'd always been quite stoic and avoided sort of getting into the weeds with how I was feeling about things, and always putting on a brave face and doing lots of stuff all the time. So I was sort of running away from the things that were just waiting for me. And it comes out in other ways. So I think, very honestly, like I had a bit of a period during COVID where all my work was cancelled. My business couldn't operate anymore. I was stuck interstate. All my family were here. Me and my partner were in this house, and fortunately for us, we weren't in Melbourne. We could still go beyond 5Ks, but it was really isolating, and it was almost like that period where I couldn't do anything else. All of the kind of mental health issues that I'd been avoiding came crashing down, like a lot of people did in that time. It's almost like my body was like, well, now's the time. Like, she's got no work. She can't see anyone. It's now. So I went through a real transformation during that time, and it was pretty unpleasant for a lot of it. But I got some really solid support and did a lot of therapy, which was quite available during COVID, and did a real deep dive into the psyche, which I had avoided doing for many, many years. And I'd had a few warning shots about anxiety throughout my life. I lost my dad when I was about 26, and that was a very stressful period. And about 6 months later, I was sort of gripped with this crippling anxiety, and, did a bit of psychology, saw a therapist a little bit, but it was quite acute. It was about this incident that had happened. Not realising that actually I'd been pretty anxious most of my life, but had masked it extremely well. So yeah, it's something that I prize, and knowing, I think as well as musicians, we're drawn to music, I think, because it's such a beautiful way to navigate struggles when you're struggling with expressing yourself or managing difficult feelings. Like, music always for me was a salve as a kid. It was an escape, and it was my own little world that I lived in, and it had always been that. Performing music comes with its own terrifying and anxiety-inducing elements, like getting up on stage and trusting the process, all those things we were talking about before. But I think just overall, as a human, you really can't outrun these things. They will catch you in the end if you don't give them time and space in your life. So I guess mental health to me is like knowing that these things are always going to come up. There is always going to be loss, stress, change, big dramatic change that's beyond your control, but just trusting that you've got enough in your toolkit to sort of navigate that and not fight it. I think that's the main thing. And it's really hard to have markers of what that looks like. And I don't want to get too dark here, but I recently lost a very, very close friend, and went to her funeral, and, just sobbed through the whole thing, as one does. Before I would have been quite repressed and restrained, but I just thought, look, she's one of my oldest friends. Actually wrote my first song about her, interestingly enough. And I just thought, wow, I've come a long way. Like, I would never have done this before. I would never have just let myself feel the grief and feel the emotion. Like, I remember being at my dad's funeral and being quite dissociated from the whole thing, just as a way of coping, you know. So I sort of marked that as a good, even though it was a terrible tragedy, and I was very, very upset and still very fragile about it. It just showed me, like, this is life. I mean, we're going to lose people we love. We're going to be faced with all sorts of challenges, but you're allowed to feel them, and letting yourself feel them will let you actually experience them rather than, you know, avoiding them or creating this false world through songwriting where that's the only safe space you can process those things. I think that's the, you know, when you're an artist, that's always the tension point. You're giving so much of your self to songwriting and you're trying to make, I don't know how you write, but I imagine it's fairly similar. Like, you know, you're creating characters or a narrative voice or something else where you can house these big issues and sort of work through them and make sense of them. You know, and I did that a lot with songwriting, but just not very much in my in my real life. So, yeah, I think, and just more broadly, I feel like musicians, we're drawn to that as a form of self-expression. So I feel like we're kind of sitting ducks a little bit when you throw in the imposter syndrome, the financial strain that comes from being a musician in the modern age, the threat of AI, which is just, you know, it's coming. All of these things, and that people-pleasing part of us that I think a lot of musicians have. You know, you get up on stage and 100 people, you know, their sort of well-being and happiness for that hour is sort of in your hands, and you feel quite duty-bound to give them a great show, even if you feel terrible. That performative aspect is really, it's hard to shake that off and still find a healthy way through. So, that's what mental health means to me, Benno.
Yeah, well, I can definitely attest to songwriting helping. Like, we've talked about it, like, just about in every single podcast, how important it is to write, whether it be even journals or and songs for us, but I think, once you start writing, it takes it from in here and can put it somewhere, and it can put it in the bank for later, or it can be put somewhere which can be then discarded even. Certainly, definitely has helped me a lot. And even just to, you know, I think as humans we have so many thoughts running around in our heads all the time, and it's hard to know what you're thinking unless you can see it, because they come and go so quick. And then once you put it down, you can actually, I like to say it a lot, and is sort of chart your own path, whether it be in a journal or whether it be in a song or whether it be just in dot points. You know, you can start making your own map of where, you know, things might need attention in your life. And you did mention before the weeds, and I think, you know, if you let it go, quite literally, the weeds at my house right now are going crazy, like through the garden. But, you know, metaphorically as well, if you don't tend to those weeds, they're going to take over. You can leave them for as long as you want, but they're just getting bigger and bigger, and, you know.
They do.
So, one of the things that were mentioned earlier on in the podcast is, you know, tend to your garden. Your mind is a garden, and it needs to be looked after. And and another thing you mentioned as well, which I'm a big believer of, is the toolkit, because everyone's so different, and you can get as much advice as you like from anyone, but their tools aren't necessarily going to be the best for you. So if you're armed with as many sort of tools you can have, whether it be breathing, whether it be journaling, meditation, therapy, psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever it needs to be, you need to I think have a nice awareness of the tools that are available. And I think then you can start to work on that garden if you need to.
It's true. It's also interesting how self-absorbing those moments can be. And I kind of really experienced that during those lockdowns when I was, you know, it was just us in this house and this little cat, you know. Your world gets very small. And another great thing that I've think it really helped me get through that process is remembering I'm someone's friend. They've got a whole life going on. I'm someone's sister. I'm someone's, you know, cousin or daughter. Like that. These people, I'm someone's partner. Like the people around me have got their whole life going on as well. And there's something about understanding that even though things can be challenging, and I certainly don't want to downplay or minimize people going through anything tough, like you certainly are in the thick of it when you're in it. But that perspective, I feel like sometimes when we talk about mental health, we get really deep in the self absorption of it. And actually one of the best things you can do is stay connected. And by connected, it's not just sharing, whatever you're experiencing with others, but listening to other people, understanding what's going on with them. The perspective becomes in its own way part of the toolkit, because you realize that you're not so small and lonely and isolated, and you actually have this beautiful community of people who care about you, that you care about, and you're interested in their life as well. It's just that finding that interest in other things, I know there's a lot of talk these days about the self-focus and self-care, and actually sometimes that's just not talking about your shit all the time to other people. Sometimes it's about listening and getting a bit of perspective, and I don't know, I think that's useful to remember when you sort of can stray into the almost narcissism of the, of it. And again, I'm certainly not minimizing anyone who's going through that. I know what it feels like, but there's, you are, infinitely connected to the things around you, and that's, I think, the most powerful way to clamber out of those holes, is to remember that and to actively get yourself out. No one's coming for you. You gotta do the things that get you out of that mindset that you are really isolated.
Staying connected, as a receiver, not just sending it all out, because as I mentioned a lot of times before, the message is pretty clear and strong about talking about things, and talking and talking. I think we're men talking, women talking. I think it's all pretty widely known now. Talking helps, but listening is, I think, by far the next step that needs to be taken, because I think people can be quick to offer advice, but people aren't as quick to just sit and listen. And the same way as writing a journal or writing a song or dot pointing, your things out in a diary or something. Once someone starts talking and you let them have the space to be able to comfortably do that, it can be with a friend or with a therapist. But once they start talking, then again they start to be able to navigate their own path. Then they hear their thoughts come out and realise, they might realise that they're going down the wrong path. This sounds like this, maybe I am being, a bit unrealistic in this way, or I need to go, after I hear that now, I need to turn this way. So, and, giving someone the ears to do that and the opportunity to do that is good as well. Now, we did have, thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Now, we did have another common friend of ours on the podcast. Well, we've had a few common friends of ours. We've had Cal on the podcast, who had a tough time during COVID as well. But we had Courtney Robb on the podcast, and she said some pretty beautiful stuff about, I guess, what success means to her. And I'm sure a lot of people would look at you and think of how successful you've been musically, and as a filmmaker now as well, and a bar manager, and as a sister, as a daughter. But like for you, and people would say Sunday was a huge success as well. But like, what defines success for you?
Oh goodness, it changes all the time. I think when I was a lot younger, I had quite a warped view of what that would look like, and I wasn't really part of. I didn't feature in my own success plan, if that makes sense. A lot of the KPIs for success were external, like getting a record deal or playing lots of big shows. I think that was like originally what I thought success in music was, being on the radio. And now I've really stripped all of that back. And this is coming from like having toured internationally and made lots of records. It's like actually the most satisfying feeling I get is knowing that I can write a song. Because it evaded me for about 4 years. I didn't write any music, and it really was very distressing. And it just made me realise I'd lost total connection with that unfiltered, raw part of myself. So I think now it's great to play shows and I love performing. But I think now for me, success is really being able to articulate what I'm feeling when I write a song and making it feel like it's a true representation of what I hear. I mean, I write music in a very strange way. I often hear snippets. You know when you play musical chairs, you know, the song starts and then there's a pause and everyone sits down, and I kind of hear the song come in waves like that. I hear a bit of the chorus first often and the vibe, and then it's sort of this process of mapping out the feeling of a song and putting lyrics to it that are cinematic enough to capture that feeling. So I have a bit of a strange process with writing. It's not very linear for me at all. But I need to be in a certain state of unfiltered, you know, no judgment, just really free to play in that space to get it down. And I think for me, success is being able to access that space readily and regularly and safely, and feel like what I'm going to make in that time is going to be, you know, listenable. And even if it's not listenable, that I'm happy to listen to it and play it. So yeah, I've gotten much less about the external validators of success. You know, you don't do music in Australia for the money. Not now with all the streaming stuff. Our industry is very small here. There's only so much, you know, it's like a game of Monopoly. There's only so much to go around. And I think I learned that pretty fast in the early days. But it is that passion to tell a story and to be able to tell it as clearly and beautifully as you want. That's really success. Knowing that if you tell the story properly, that will move people. It will connect with people. I got into a bad habit of writing the room for a while, where when I was writing, I would think about who was listening and try and think, what would they, you know, in the back of my mind. It was subtle, but it was definitely there, which is part of the reason why I had to move as well. I think, you know, I was just stuck in a bit of a hamster wheel and not really growing as an artist or trying new things. So, yeah. I feel like the songs that people have connected with most have been the ones where I've just bared my soul and not cared what how anyone might interpret them.
I totally agree with that. I find the songs of mine that have had the best, I guess, response or have been the ones that you're the most scared to sing, I think.
Yeah, and you can't fake that, Ben. Like you can dress up a lot of songs with a lot of fancy, you know, card tricks, but ultimately there's sometimes the simpler songs where there's such clarity on your message or what you want to say. Those are the ones that really cut through.
I saw an awesome clip actually. It was John Mayer, and like, you know, he's superstar and things like that, but he said when you're writing a song you need to have a real sense of unfiltered bravery just to throw shit at a wall and try everything. And he's sort of doing a demonstration, just like looking into the corner, just saying stuff.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes you just gotta have no filter on and just be brave and say what's in your mind at that moment, at that time. And sometimes it's not going to work, but sometimes that's where you'll find the gold.
That is the gold for me. I mean, I can remember when I wrote my third album, I was, you know, just left a big relationship. I was living alone for the first time, and I would set up this beautiful like candlelit room. I'd have the fire going. I would really get in the zone, and I would create this for hours and hours. I would hang out in there in this place in my mind. And the lyrics, you know, there were probably 100 songs written during that time, 10 of which I salvaged. But that whole making a space for yourself to do that without anyone looking on or fearing anyone can hear you. I mean, my neighbours I'm sure could hear me, but I didn't really care at the time. There's something really beautiful about giving yourself permission to do that. And I feel like all the great artists just do that. They really don't, they don't fixate on the end product. It's the process of it. And I think that's the struggle with musicians. We've got to commodify so much of what we do to make it a record and then, you know, sell it or stream it or put a package together for your promo stuff and all the social media stuff, which I hate. I hate it so much. But yeah, not getting lost in all of that and going back to the roots of it are really powerful. So yeah, I feel like that as much as you can create the word, and I'm a bit of a method actor when it comes to song. Like I will get into character because the voices aren't always my own, and that requires looking a little bit silly if anyone was to, observe you. I sometimes thought about doing a time lapse recording of what it's like to write a song, and was immediately horrified by having a record forever of what it might look like, just the pacing and
dressing
talking
up
to
as
the
a vampire,
dressing up as a vampire and hiding in the cupboard, which I have actually done to write Conjure Woman Blues. Worth it though, worth it. But
it's a hit.
Just making peace with that kind of side of yourself that others might consider lunacy, actually is a really important part of the process. It's not polished at all,
Yeah, another thing, I think it was Ben Lee was saying, just always be ready to pounce on the creativity because it's not always there either. Or like for some of us 4 years sometimes to write a song. So, just having, the doors open to be able to accept it when it is. And, for anyone learning an instrument or guitar or piano, it's just being... and then that's just putting in that time when you don't feel like it too. I think just working on the craft too and pushing through those writer's blocks and stuff.
Also knowing your own rhythm with it. Like I know a lot of people that have a daily practice of writing. I would love to be that kind of writer, but I'm just not. I often will have long droughts where I sort of am being moved around by things that happen in my life or thoughts that pop in. And then I often have a period of mad writing where I'll write 6-7 songs in a week, it just, the download comes, I'm in the right zone and it all happens. And it took me ages to get comfortable with that. And just, not think, I'm a failure, why can't I get past this? And I did try doing this daily, I read The Artist's Way and, she does morning pages, which is a great way to, it's kind of like journaling, but free association journaling that you start every day. So you connect with your subconscious very early. I did that for a while, it was great, but the writing for me has got to be at an inspired time, and I got to jump on. I've left whole shopping trolleys full of food in the supermarket because I've had to go and go home and write something. Like I've just when it Bentley is right. When it arrives, one must jump on it. For me, anyway, I haven't learned to tame the beast in that way.
Flip that shopping list over and start writing it. Yeah.
Or the voice notes. When smartphones came out, just thought brilliant. I don't have to call my answering machine anymore. Because I'm that old, Ben.
Well, that would be a cool tape to get. The answering machine archives.
Yeah.
And so, well, we could go on for hours, I think. But so. Like Courtney and like Cal and like myself, we came from a pre sort of social media time. How do you find navigating the social media? Maybe not so much as an artist, but what do you think about it just as a human right now, and with the amount that's out there and things like that?
I've got really mixed feelings about it. I think it's like one of those very useful inventions that served a purpose, but now it's jumped the shark and it's become so counterproductive and divisive, and it's an augmented reality. Like what we see on there is so not real. And actually our common friend we were talking about, Yasmin, is one of the only people I know that has never had a social media account.
That's why she looks so happy.
She is, yes, exactly. But it reminded me that you can do it. I think as musicians we feel the pressure to make content all the time, and it's just annoying. Everyone hates it. It's a distraction from the actual work. I hate the presence these apps have in my life. They're a useful way to catch up with people, but you don't actually catch up. You're just kind of lurking, voyeuristically looking at people's lives. You very rarely use them to send a message or say, I'm thinking about you, or, they've just become this kind of photo montage and video montage of people's very much augmented and the tip of the iceberg of their reality. So I do hate it. One thing I love about going to Germany is when I toured there last time, they weren't really across it. It hadn't overtaken as much as it had. So things like posters and radio interviews and word of mouth and all of that other stuff was way more powerful than social media at the time. And they're a bit more old school about it. And I really want to ditch it all and just go back to having an email list, if I'm honest. I know that might be career suicide. But yeah, I wish it wasn't around so much, and I really feel sorry for the kids. I mean, we never had it growing up, thank the Lord. When I think about we had other weird stuff in the 90s and the 80s, I'm showing my age, but yeah, there's just something about trapping your identity in these apps. It's pretty terrifying. And the political stuff, like the algorithm is geared to show you divisive, controversial stuff. Like I feel like a lot of nuance in conversation has evaporated because of social media, and you're one camp or the other if you're not posting about one thing, and it's just not useful or relevant, and I think it really changes people's brain chemistry over time in a bad way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a huge distraction away from being creative. I think sometimes I'll just grab my phone and then I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to do this, and then it's like suddenly I'm just in Instagram. What am I meant to be doing? Like I feel like they're built to take you away from your dreams.
And they're so clever, like that, it does all, like, comparing is like all the things that are bad for your mental health, like comparison, comparing yourself to others, that really divisive extreme stuff, the avoidance in us, the narcissism, like all of these things that are really counterproductive to being healthy.
And that's
these
right.
apps just,
we're not connecting, like making that community. Well, I'm sure there definitely are places where the internet is a great place for community and for some people as well.
This YouTube channel, for example.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. But yeah, I do know what you mean. We are just sometimes lurking in the shadows of our friends, whereas, oh yeah, I saw you did this, or I saw you did. You're probably not even talking to them. Yeah, you are just looking at their Bali holiday or whatever, and then just taking that in, and then not even talking to them.
Well, I had this really weird moment where someone thought, just because I hadn't posted for like a year or two, that I had dropped off the face of the earth. I wasn't doing music anymore, and I was like, isn't that interesting? Like, if you're not seen to be in someone's algorithm or in their feed, suddenly you've quit music.
Yeah,
and,
dead.
Yeah, it was just a strange thing. I thought, wow, that's so interesting that we just assume if people aren't documenting it in real time on social media that they're doing nothing. It's strange. It's a really strange time.
Yeah, and as musicians as well, if you're not seen to be active, then the offers start drying up as well. The emails stop coming in if you're not actively. Oh, this person hasn't posted since July. Oh no, they're off. They're out.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, always finding ways to be less distracted, because with mental health as well, I think it's about being present as well a lot of the time. Moments like this when you're outside in the beautiful botanic gardens and stuff, we could, you walk around, there's people sitting on a park bench just in their phone. Sort of great artistic representation, sort of reimagination of society, and they were taking photos of people around the city, but they would take away the phone. So it was like people at a barbecue and they're just, someone's cooking and someone's like this, or at swimming and, their children are at swimming lessons and they're just looking into the palm of their hand. And I think that's, I think there are positive things that it can be useful, but I don't think we are using them for those. No,
it's the role they play, and being able to scale back, the doom scrolling, give it its 5 minutes a day, or it's, an hour a week or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a drug, actually. It's people get addicted to this stuff. They don't realise it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I think there was like a study showing of people's heart rate when they think their phone's gone missing. It's quite astounding, I think. But so, what's happening? What can we tell the people what's happening with Emily Davis? What can we be on the lookout for? If you've got anything to tell us about?
Well,
the movie, the pilot may be shown next year.
Yes, the second film, the short film, The Job. We're going to screen that in Adelaide, Natalia and I. Just got a new guitar arriving tomorrow, Benno, which I'm hoping to finish writing my next little album on. I was a bit inspired by the Hushes. I'm going to do this next album campfire style, probably at home in Dalesford, and just sort of strip back the layers a lot. So I'm working on a new release, and there'll be, it's going to be a lot more acoustic than my other records, but I'm really excited about that. Kind of feel like I've come full circle and I'm going back to the beginning again.
Cool.
So there'll be some shows here in Adelaide with that, and probably in Melbourne and Daylesford. And I'm currently booking a little tour for Germany in the summer.
Beautiful.
So I'll be heading over there with Tori, my beautiful violin player.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do some festivals over there and drink lots of German beer and speak really bad German to sound engineers.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that, being on the road again after such a long time.
Excellent. Yeah, well, yes, as friends of mine and my old band, Ukulele Death's got toured there quite a bit, and they, love Germany, and they just say, as you said, they're so warm to their artists as well. Like, venues will have accommodation, venues will have food, venues will have this.
It's incredible.
Something that really, I think, Australia could learn. I know a lot of venues do that as well, but the hospitality in Germany is awesome.
It's beautiful. They will get up and introduce you, even if you're playing in a little pub or in a whatever. They really take a moment to just be like, hey, everyone, the show is happening. I've never had such beautiful audience appreciation. And you're right, they it's not all Berlin. There's a lot of Berlin is quite different from the rest of Germany. We did a lot of regional touring in Germany. But just wonderful, warm, generous people who, and the language is not a barrier there, I always worried about how I would go. I'm learning German for this next tour, but it's incredible. They are really the yardstick for me. It was slightly sad coming back, you know.
Yeah, well,
in that way.
2026, 2027, Frau Davis will be performing for all my German listeners. Thanks for being on the podcast. Yeah, let's look out for The Job, with our little sneaky viewing here in Adelaide soon. The new album, maybe some more Hushers gigs, who knows?
I think the Hushers for sure, Benno. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thanks for being a part of the podcast today.
My pleasure.
All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the Concrete Connection Project podcast, and we are set to finish on December 12th for an awesome big event happening soon. More details to come, but if you'd like to make a donation into the GoFundMe to finish off this project strong, then please have a look in the show description. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Concrete Connection Project podcast. If you want to support this project even further, please like, follow, share, subscribe, or leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. To support this project even further, please leave a small donation in the GoFundMe campaign, where we are raising money and awareness for mental health and mental health charities that are supporting people that are struggling. Please find the link in the show description or scan the QR code. Thanks for listening.